Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now let us talk about our dear Michael Corinthos. Bless his heart, the man is truly trying his absolute best to navigate a situation that would break the spirit of any normal person. We have all watched him grow up on our screens, transitioning from a troubled young boy into a father who simply wants to do right by his family. But as the old saying goes, no good deed goes unpunished. And it seems Michael is about to learn that painful lesson in the harshest way imaginable. In the recent events that unfolded on August 10th, we witnessed a prime example of how Michael's inherent kindness and desire to take the high road might just be the very thing that costs him everything he holds dear. It is incredibly frustrating to watch, especially for those of us who just want to see those precious children, Wiley and Amelia, raised in a stable, loving environment. Michael is dealing with a woman who has completely lost her way, and his refusal to fight fire with fire is putting him at a severe disadvantage. The entire ordeal began with Jacinda, a young woman who clearly thought she was doing Michael a massive favor by taking matters into her own hands. We all know that Willow had recently slapped Jacinda with a restraining order, which is a serious legal maneuver meant to keep people apart. Jacinda, feeling backed into a corner and desperate to expose Willow for the person she has truly become, made a remarkably foolish and dangerous decision. She actually slipped drugs into Willow's coffee. Now, we can all agree that drugging someone is never the answer, no matter how vindictive or manipulative that person might be. Jacinda honestly believed that this was a victimless crime, a simple little trick that would pull back the curtain and show the entire town of Port Charles the ugly truth about Willow. She thought she was being a hero, a vigilante, fighting for Michael's cause, completely oblivious to the massive ethical and legal lines she was crossing in the process. When Jacinda proudly confessed her actions to Michael, expecting a pat on the back and a shower of gratitude, she was met with absolute shock and horror. This is where we really see the core of who Michael is as a man. Despite the fact that Willow has essentially declared all-out war on him, despite the bitter custody battle and the endless manipulation, Michael's moral compass immediately pointed north. He sternly reprimanded Jacinda, reminding her in no uncertain terms that the battle with Willow was his to fight and that resorting to such underhanded, dangerous tactics was completely unacceptable. He did not hesitate for a single second. Instead of sitting back and letting Willow make a fool of herself, or worse, get seriously hurt, Michael dropped everything and rushed across town to save his ex-wife. It is a testament to his character, but it is also a glaring vulnerability that his enemies are all too eager to exploit. What makes Michael's heroic dash across Port Charles even more poignant is the fact that he had absolutely no idea that his children were caught in the middle of this mess. He rushed over to Nina's apartment purely out of concern for Willow's safety, completely unaware that little Wiley and sweet baby Amelia were there with her. As a mother and a grandmother, my heart just sank at the thought of those innocent babies being in the care of someone who was under the influence of strong narcotics. When Michael burst through the doors of Nina's apartment, expecting to find a medical emergency, he was instead greeted by a scene that was both surreal and deeply unsettling. There were his precious children, having a joyful little dance party right there in the living room, completely oblivious to the fact that their mother was heavily drugged and entirely incapable of protecting them if an emergency had occurred. The sheer panic that must have gripped Michael's heart in that moment is unimaginable. Yet, true to his nature, he did not scream or shout. He did not want to frighten the children. With the gentle, protective touch of a loving father, he calmly and swiftly ushered Wiley and Amelia out of the room, ensuring they were safe and shielded from the disturbing reality of their mother's condition. Once the children were secure, Michael turned his attention to Willow. Now, usually, any interaction between these two lately is filled with venom, accusations, and bitter defensive walls. But because the drugs had completely taken over Willow's system, she was in an incredibly docile, almost dreamlike state. When Michael gently informed her that she had been drugged, she did not argue. She did not throw her usual defensive tantrums or accuse him of lying. She simply accepted his words, her defenses entirely stripped away by the chemicals coursing through her veins. What followed was a moment that I found to be incredibly heartbreaking, a fleeting glimpse of the profound love and connection these two once shared. As they sat there, waiting for the drugs to fully pull Willow under, they engaged in a soft, nostalgic conversation. They took a gentle trip down memory lane, remembering the days when their love was pure, when they were a united front against the world, long before the bitterness and the custody battles tore their family apart. For a few brief shining minutes, the war was paused. Michael was not the enemy. He was just the man who had loved her, the man who was sitting by her side, making sure she was safe as she drifted off to sleep. It was a beautiful, tragic reminder of what they have lost. But as viewers, we know all too well that this peaceful truce is nothing more than a temporary illusion created by Jacinda's reckless actions. The harsh, cold reality is going to hit Michael like a ton of bricks the moment the sun rises. We have all been watching soap operas long enough to know exactly how this is going to play out. When Willow finally wakes up from her drug-induced slumber and the fog clears from her mind, she is not going to look at Michael with gratitude. She is not going to thank him for rushing to her rescue, for protecting their children, or for sitting by her side. Instead, she is going to see an incredibly potent weapon handed to her on a silver platter. Willow, in her current state of mind, is entirely incapable of taking responsibility for her own life, and she will undoubtedly twist this entire narrative to serve her own selfish purposes. She will completely ignore the fact that Jacinda acted alone and will place the blame squarely on Michael's shoulders. Mark my words, Willow is going to accuse Michael of orchestrating this entire drugging incident. She will tell anyone who will listen that Michael hired Jacinda to drug her coffee in a desperate, sick attempt to make her look like an unfit mother in front of the children. She will use his presence at Nina's apartment not as proof of his heroism, but as evidence of his guilt, claiming he was there to witness the culmination of his wicked plan. It is a bitter pill to swallow, knowing that Michael's genuine act of kindness is going to be weaponized against him in a court of law. Willow is going to use this fabricated story to demand full custody of Wiley and Amelia, painting herself as the innocent victim of a wealthy, powerful, and abusive ex-husband. She's going to try to take those children away from the only stable parent they have left, and it just makes my blood boil to think about it. Thankfully, Michael is not entirely alone in this fight, even if he sometimes feels like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. The recent previews for the upcoming episodes have shown us a glimmer of hope in the form of Trina and Kai. It is so refreshing to see young people stepping up to do the right thing. Trina, who has always had such a strong moral compass and a deep sense of loyalty, along with Kai, have both promised to stand by Michael's side. They have pledged to help him stop Willow from taking those children. Having allies like Trina and Kai is crucial for Michael right now, because he is going to need all the support he can get when Willow unleashes her inevitable legal and public relations nightmare. They know the truth about Willow's behavior, and hopefully they can help Michael gather the evidence he needs to prove that he is the one acting in the best interests of Wiley and Amelia. However, support from friends is only going to take Michael so far. At the end of the day, Michael has to look deep within himself and make a fundamental change in how he is handling this war. We all know his lineage. This is a man who has the blood of the Quartermains and the Corinthos families running through his veins. He was raised by Sonny Corinthos, a man who knows exactly how to eliminate a threat and protect his territory. He carries the legacy of Edward Quartermain, a ruthless businessman who never let anyone get the better of him in a negotiation. For far too long, Michael has been suppressing that dark, formidable side of his personality, desperately trying to be the good guy, the clean-cut hero. But playing nice is exactly what has allowed Willow to walk all over him. She has been committing terrible acts, manipulating everyone around her, and constantly escaping any real consequences, while Michael continually pays the price for his own decency. It is high time for Michael to take the gloves off. He needs to stop worrying about taking the high road and start worrying about protecting his children by any means necessary. The road to ruin is paved with good intentions, and Michael's good intentions are leading him straight toward losing his family. He needs to tap into that inner Corinthos ruthlessness, that Quartermain cunning, and show Willow that she has finally crossed the wrong man. He cannot afford to be the bleeding heart anymore. He needs to become the fiercely protective father who will scorch the earth to keep his children safe from a mother who is spiraling out of control. We are all rooting for you, Michael, but it is time to wake up, smell the coffee, and fight this battle with the ferocity it demands.